Ladies and gentlemen, I come to you with extremely grave news. The United States border has been completely overrun by paramilitary trained forces by the UN who are funded by U.S. taxpayers. And the fate that Europe has seen, 15 million illegal aliens brought in by the UN in the last 6 years, is about to be duplicated here. The UN report itself says if they're successful breaking down the border with Central and South America, with the United States, that they plan to bring in 600 million people by 2050. This country is under military attack, economic attack, cultural attack, globalist attack. Our birthright of free speech is being annihilated. And as we speak, we have the live footage posted to Infowars.com and Newswars.com from the local TV affiliates. National news is saying, oh, the Border Patrol's being mean and shooting at innocent migrants with tear gas, even though they play the footage of people throwing rocks at the police, at the riot police, at the Border Patrol, at ICE, and their dramatic footage of the imaginary caravan that MSNBC and the Democratic Party and CNN said did not exist. They said Trump made it up. There is no migrant caravan that slammed into Mexico 3.5 weeks ago and that attacked police and even killed people. All that footage of those giant masses pouring through didn't happen. Let's roll for TV viewers some of the footage, and I'll describe it for radio listeners, of just 30 minutes ago. And it's ongoing. We've got live satellite feeds of this, of the people from the Mexico side, Tijuana, running down the sand embankment and up and scaling the fence, and they're in to the United States. And this is ongoing, just like the footage you saw almost a month ago in northern Guatemala and Honduras, as 50,000+ people in 5 different waves poured across. Oh, and let's slow that footage down if we can. What are they waving? Honduran flags, Venezuelan flags. Thousands of people pouring across and then scaling. I was watching CNN right before we went live, and they said, Trump's being mean to poor migrants. And they'd show some canned footage of a child. And then they would show people running up the embankments, climbing over and attacking police. But they would talk bad about the police, saying that they had attacked them. This is the total spin, the total deception. It looks like something out of World War II with people storming beaches. And the same thing was started in 6 years ago in Europe with the UN funding refugee centers in North Africa and the Middle East, opening up migration routes through Syria into Turkey and then into Eastern Europe, using Zodiac boats by the hundreds a day, bringing thousands of people in out of North Africa, paid for by U.S. aid, laundered through Soros's operations, and shipped directly into Europe, and then they're used as political weapons. How incredible is it to see national news say, we've got to let the caravan in, they're all children, when they're 90+%. In Europe, it's 80% military-age men coming in. And criminals, people waving foreign flags. They've been caught smuggling kidnapped children. And there's caravans showing up all the time. But these are huge caravans of tens of thousands, not hundreds. And they are publicly letting the world know that the border is open and that the UN can stage these staging grounds and bring these people up. And now, what do they always do? They hopscotch. Once they start off in one Middle Eastern country, they then send in a bunch of refugees there. That country can't handle it. The refugees mass on the border of the next country. The UN comes in, is brought into the nation that's already been invaded by the UN to handle the refugees, because that's their treaty, that's their supposed job. And then they exploit the people, train them, give them $1,000 debit cards for free. George Soros pays for it with U.S. taxpayers' money. That's Reuters. And then they invade the next country. And then they mass in that country and rob and steal and crap in the street and sleep on the road. And so the UN then organizes the next refugee camp. And then you've gone all the way from Venezuela to San Diego in just 1 year. They started out a year ago at refugee camps in Venezuela, many of them. Then that collapsed. Then they move in to the next country, and now they're all the way up, and they have breached. If you just tuned in, illegal alien horde has climbed the fences and has breached the United States and has made it over to the other side. They are making it into the United States, where they will then be loaded onto buses, and they will be taken to immigration and naturalization. They will overwhelm the system. The left will use taxpayer money with paid-for lawyers to represent them. They will go into the first liberal judge, and that's why they're invading California. And they will be released, and on average, the wait for a deportation hearing is 2+ years. Some are as much as almost 4. So let's explain this right now. The UN and multinational corporations get U.S. taxpayer money. They then implode nations like Venezuela and others. They then organize the worst of the worst, criminals, communists, socialists, bandits, human smugglers, you name it, and they begin setting up refugee centers as they move the hordes towards your nation. Then the vanguard hits, blows through your border defenses, breaks them down. That's broadcast worldwide. And then others show up at the refugee centers, set up thousands of miles south, and begin to get their credit cards and their free food, and they are recruited. They are given debit cards. You can pull up Reuters. We said this a couple months ago, and the news said we were making it up. And we just pulled up from a year ago, Reuters, with George Soros bragging he gets U.S. taxpayer money, billions, through the State Department. They give it to Soros. He then pays per leg $1,000 with no name on the debit card, the cash card. $1,000 of U.S. taxpayer money mainly. Others chip in as well. The Germans pay for it, all of them. That goes into the UN. It's given to these non-governmental organizations, these criminal military organizations. They then weaponize, brainwash the people, prepare them. But they're smart. They don't give them $5,000, $10,000 to make the 4,000 or 5,000 mile trek through 7, 8, 9 countries. They say every leg you make it, you get a bag of food, you get any clothes you need, you can stay here a week, a month in the refugee center, the brainwashing center, and then you're given a $1,000 debit card. And that's why when they slammed into Tijuana 3+ weeks ago, the mayor and others said, we have jobs, we have a lot of factories here. They said, we don't want those. We're here to conquer the U.S. Trump is Hitler. America sucks, but we're getting all the free crap. They are trained to hate the country and invade it. This is unbelievable. And we had our crew there weeks ago showing it, and the national news said it did not exist. That's how much they hate you. That's how stupid they think you are. So again, U.S. border defenses have been breached. As of November 25th, 2018, as of about 1:30 Pacific time, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of the tens of thousands now massing of all the different caravans converging on, all militarily prepared, all coordinated, all given UN money from U.S. taxpayers, all showing up with U.S. aid bags to target one point on the border and overwhelm it. And they're going to have little kids at the front of the PR with the collaborator media taking photos, shooting video, saying it's all children here just wanting food. They're starving. And evil U.S. forces have attacked them. The truth is they're throwing rocks. They're trying to stab people. They're physically attacking. They've now overrun. U.S. border defenses have been breached. And the collaborator media told you either they're all a bunch of innocent children, there's no men, or it doesn't exist. Exactly what an enemy military would do. This is not an assault. You're not under attack. Don't run. We are your friends. Lay down your arms. Resistance is futile. And this is just the beginning, as Trump desperately tries to defend the sovereignty of our nation before we totally collapse. We've already got 35 million illegal aliens inside the country. And the globalist plan is the total collapse of the United States. Choose which side you're on, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I come to you with extremely grave news. The United States border has been completely overrun by paramilitary trained forces by the UN who are funded by U.S. taxpayers. And the fate that Europe has seen, 15 million illegal aliens brought in by the UN the last 6 years, is about to be duplicated here. The UN report itself says if they're successful breaking down the border with Central and South America, with the United States, that they plan to bring in 600 million people by 2050. I know that doesn't sound possible, does it, until you realize that by 2050, we're going to add 4 billion more people. 6+ billion are third world currently. 600 million, handpicked, brainwashed by leftist ideology, set up at UN camps, and they're collapsed third world countries, they're communist countries like Venezuela, and then funded and marched up to the border to overrun border defenses, to be handed to Democrat Party judges. They're invading California for a reason, who will then release them. The average time is over 2 years until they're even supposed to show up for their deportation court date when they claim asylum. These people use fake names. These people never show back up. These people are criminals. These people are money launderers, drug dealers. They're child abductors. Even the Washington Post admitted under Obama, when he kept saying in the news, there's children coming across the border, even though only 17% were under the age of 18. We sent reporters down there and said they show up, no ID, they load people on buses that the Democrats fund, and they ship them off to sanctuary cities to then be given fake IDs, to be given welfare, to be set up to vote. And now it's all admitted. And now the imaginary caravan. Remember when the public woke up and said, this looks terrible, them breaking down the defenses of southern Mexico 3.5 weeks ago? People, even the average Democrat, said this is crazy. The barber shop I go to that's mainly Hispanic barbers in South Austin, they've been telling me about it. They're freaked out. Why are they waving foreign flags? Why are they burning American flags, Alex? Well, why is Trump being called bad for saying do something? This is crazy. So my Hispanic barber thinks it's dangerous and bad. So what did they do? Well, they just said, oh, it doesn't exist, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't exist. I mean, how insulting is that? But see, they always change the subject to have an argument where you just debate whether it exists or not, whether the sky's blue or bluebirds are blue, or the Houston NFL football team is the Texans. We all know that. If someone tells it's not true, they're a liar or they're mentally ill. Now, we're on over 200+ radio stations, hundreds of TV stations. We're on satellite all over the country. People are watching this right now. This just happened an hour ago. We have live sat feeds of tear gas going off in there. We have live sat feeds of the riot police being overrun and being hit in the head with rocks. I've got a stack of news right here. But CNN's talking about how they're poor babies. CPB suspends all traffic at the port of entry between Tijuana and San Diego after migrants rush to the border. The latest, U.S. agents shoot tear gas at migrants who were hitting them with rocks and had just climbed over the fence illegally. But, oh, the Washington Post doesn't tell you that. Trump closes U.S. border checkpoint at Tijuana as migrant caravan breaks through the fence. Oh, at least the British news got it right. Breaks through, overrunning the U.S. And you're like, well, we'll just throw them back over the fence. No, you won't. You know why? Because the Democrats control and got the laws passed. The president just has control over the border under law, but not what happens once they get to those traitor judges. And they know they get over, they're in. And now they're going to mass up against that fence, and the media is going to show kids and go, oh, the kids are out in the heat, no food. It's Trump's fault. It's America's fault. No, it's the criminal parents who brought a small number of children, a lot of them smuggled, a lot of them not even with their parents, as human shields. When some radical Islamicist trains their 5-year-old to blow themselves up with TNT, they're the scumbag. And when somebody brings their kid across the desert and then shows up in the Arizona desert in the middle of the night, and no one even knows if this is their mother. The media lies and says Trump took her away from her mother. They didn't. It's all lies. And now our border has been breached. Migrants enveloped in tear gas after heading towards U.S. NBC News. Oh, heading towards. Man, imagine if you knocked down your neighbor's door, hit him in the head with a rock, and took their house over. NBC News would say, well, somebody was headed towards their neighbor's door and got assaulted. No, they assaulted us. Look at these headlines. Shock video, Caravan migrants storm U.S. border in Tijuana. That's the Jamie White article on Infowars.com. But however you're listening to local radio or watching local television right now, tell everybody about the local radio station you're listening to and the local TV station you're watching, or go to Infowars.com and send out the link to the most censored, most demonized, most lied about show in the world, because we tell the truth and we're faithful, good Americans. I had 8 Democrats try to gang up on me in a taco place yesterday when I was picking up food for the crew. And they were calling me a traitor and a Russian and all this other crap. And these people are enemies of the nation. They have been brainwashed to believe the nation existing is bad. And they side with Soros and the UN that's funding all this. So here's the Red Alert page that has the live video feed of this show that needs to be sent out. Like, you're Paul Revere, folks. You're just as important as I am. And I desperately need you to go to Infowars.com and Newswars.com and get the live feed page. Newswars.com doesn't get censored as much when you try to tweet it out or Facebook it out. So go get that version. Red Alert, UN-funded migrant horde of violent criminals just tore through U.S. border defenses. Tear gas fired. I wrote that headline right before we went live. Should I say just tore or just smashed through? Yeah, I'd say smashed through. Let's change that to smashed through U.S. border defenses, tear gas fired. Watch live feed of the invasion here. America is in a state of emergency. But what happens in every major war where Napoleon invades or Hitler invades or any other invading army builds up on your border in masses, and you know they're about to invade? When Hitler invaded Poland, Czechoslovakia, Danzig, Austria, every time he said, I'm not invading. I'm not invading. And even when his troops would smash through, they would report for a full week just to confuse the other side and broadcast on all their channels in Polish or in Russian, later when they invaded Russia, that Germany has not invaded. There is no invasion. And enough people would actually not want to believe they'd been invaded and would stand down when there'd been an invasion. You know, Mars Attacks. It's a comedy. It's a sci-fi movie. But you know, the joke is the Martians land. While they kill you, while they shoot you, they go, "Don't run. We are your friends." And then the people don't run. They get killed, and the Martians go. It's unbelievable. Our country is under globalist invasion. We are under coordinated criminal attack.